Has the return of Verdansk to Call of Duty Warzone saved the game? Well, let's get into it. So we're going to start with the good things that this map has done first, and we're actually just going to talk about the map as an overall thing straight off. Between sort of this version, the original 2020 version, and then the Cold War version of Verdansk, this one, for me personally, is by far and above the best version of Verdansk we have ever had. Now, the map is clear. The map is bright, both inside and outside of buildings. It's very, very true to the original. The map looks great. It feels great to be back on it. And for me, it's a big win. And part of the reason why it feels good to be back on Verdansk is that because it feels like a traditional Battle Royale again. Well, not traditional Battle Royale in terms of a traditional Battle Royale, but traditional in terms of Call of Duty sense of it. So, the fact that it's slow paced, i.e. the circles last longer, we are very much back to the original 25-minute game modes that we had back when Warzone first dropped in 2020, rather than the 20-minute ones that we've been getting in Urzikstan very recently. So the game feels a lot slower. Secondly, the movement is also a lot slower. Now, I was a bit unsure about how this movement was going to be when it was announced at the blog that they were going to tweak the Omni movement. For me personally, I think they've absolutely boxed off Omni movement for Warzone now. It needed to get away from this like sort of slippery, slidey feel of multiplayer and become its own thing. And I think Warzone have absolutely crushed it. So the slow movement is one thing, and the fact you can't sort of redeploy balloon is another thing. That means you've actually got to think about your rotations. And then things like no Gulag tokens, only having one Gulag as well, means that you've really got to go play your life. So if you die early on in these games, you've really got to try and lock it in for the rest of the game should you come back from the Gulag. And on the subject of redeployed balloons going, vehicles actually matter again. I've, for the first time in a long time, playing big map on Warzone, actually been driving around in vehicles, going from point to point, getting bounty, hunting that bounty down in said vehicle, and getting back out of the vehicle and getting another bounty, and then using the vehicles to rotate later in the game. Actually, they have a purpose for a change, and I will say that the vehicles, to me, still don't feel like a one-to-one representation of what we had back in the day. I don't think anything is going to get close to them. However, it actually feels nice to be able to sort of press the accelerator button on the vehicle, and the vehicle kind of just goes at a steady pace, rather than taking forever to get up to speed, at which point everyone can try and shoot you. So for me personally, I think this is a big win. We are getting there with vehicles. Vehicles do matter again. They are important for rotations. You are seeing people using them for rotations. I will say, though, that the armoured SUV is a bit of a problem, especially in solos. Now, it's been 5 years of complaining about audio in Call of Duty Warzone, and after 5 long years, it feels like we have finally mastered audio in Warzone. Whatever they've done with the audio in Warzone in this update, never change it. Because for the first time in a long time, I can kind of gauge where people are. You can kind of tell when someone's at the right of you, or the left of you, or above you, or below you, and kind of all the different sort of terrain that they're walking on. It seems clear. It seems crystal clear. Why this has taken 5 years to get to this point, I will never know. But we finally have decent audio in Warzone. Thank the Lord. And that's a good thing that I want to mention, just off playing the game over the last few days. Obviously, I still haven't really done a deep dive into this map. I haven't really played for too long because of life and stuff. But the last thing I want to mention is the game's actually smooth and stable. And it feels like this is the best Warzone update that we've ever had since it dropped. It's smooth. It works well. The servers hold up. I haven't seen any game-breaking bugs or anything like that. Everything just works. Even to the point of where, like, contracts aren't morphing into other, like, sort of assets, or weapons aren't morphing into other assets. I think I've seen that once in probably the 7 or 8 hours I've played it since this map dropped, of a weapon sort of, like, blending into a box or something like that, where therefore I can't pick it up. It actually works. It feels like this game has been sort of tested and tested and tested and quality checked and sort of quality proved and made sure that actually it should drop in a working manner. And for me personally, this is a huge win because it means that any returning players to this game are actually getting a stable game for a change rather than the absolute show that we've had over the last few years. So as I mentioned, this is me just quickly sort of briefly put my thoughts into, after playing for the opening weekend. Some of the things that I would like to see improved. First thing is a lack of plates on the map. There's basically no plates anywhere. Raven Software already said this is going to be addressed in the coming week. So hopefully that means we get more plates on the map. However, I would also see them like to go this a step further and actually, I know this map has done a lot of sticking to the original source material, but actually see them go away from that. I mentioned it last week in my blog video as well, but I would like to see them do 6 plates as a sort of everyone can hold 6 plates as a default, which means you've got sort of 2 full max heals. And then if you get an armor satchel, I think that should go up to 9 rather than the 5 and the 8, which means then you have 3 max heals. I just think that needs to be a little bit better than what it is right now. I find that people can shoot very straight in this game because this game's been out a long time now. So Back in the day, yes, having 5 plates, you kind of were able to get away with it. For me personally, I think that we need more plates on the map and we need to be able to carry more plates, and that's for a very good reason, and that reason is an increased time to kill. I thought the time to kill in Warzone was in a really good place, especially after the Battle of Modern Warfare 3 and into Black Ops 6. I think that the time to kill felt good. I feel like it was a very good balance between sort of not too fast but not too slow. It felt like kills were rewarding, but at the same time I feel like you didn't have to empty like a whole magazine into someone to get a kill. We're back to the original time to kill that we had in Verdansk when it first dropped, and my goodness, this thing is insanely fast. I know why they've done it, because it removes a skill gap, which means that any returning players or people who haven't played for a long time coming back to the game can get kills, and it feels like they're rewarding them, and I understand why they've gone and done it. I've been using Resolute as a perk recently to try and sort of, you get faster movement speed as you get shot at. For me personally, I've been getting shot at that quickly and dying that quickly that Resolute hasn't even really mattered. For the sake of playing Devil's Advocate though, with the time to kill being a lot faster, I feel like once we kind of get more used to the game again and sort of used to this sort of fast time to kill, I think we'll probably will sort of just see, that just become the norm again. Now, Battle Royales are supposed to be tough, they're supposed to be punishing, but Call of Duty's Battle Royale isn't really like a traditional Battle Royale in terms of that you can come back into the game if you win a Gulag or your teammate buys you back. And because you come back, you then start regaining in the game. And one of the things that you need to be able to regain is a somewhat decent ground loot pool. And right now, in Warzone, we have a very bad ground loot pool. I don't think there's many people that are a fan of this ground loot pool. I feel like there's a lot of snipers and a lot of marksman rifles and a lot of LMGs for some weird reason that are just not all that great. And then when you do find an SMG, for some reason it's got an ACOG scope on it. I don't know why this is the thing, but it is apparently. And then you couple that with the fact that there's no plates, there is an insanely quick time to kill, and things like the new weapons like the HDR and the AMAX are insanely overpowered. Trying to regain is very difficult because the ground loot cannot compete with these weapons. So I would like to see the ground loot sort of tweaked a little bit, sort of just improved ever so slightly. It's not a million miles away from being in a good place, it just needs a few tweaks, I think. Then on to things like sort of regaining, or even when you start the game, cash flow on this map is very slow right now. There is contracts, and if you do contracts, you do get multipliers, so if you do another contract, you do get more money, but contracts seem to be very few and far between right across the map, especially towards the end game. Now, if you're trying to regain, maybe sort of buy your teammates back, it's very difficult to do so, because you just pop on boxes and get like $200 dollar stacks or $500 stacks. You never get like big stacks of like 2,000 or anything like that. It's quite difficult to regain on this map. And that is because of the cash flow. I feel like we don't need a cash flow like Verdansk, where there's just cash everywhere, and then everyone's got like constantly like 30 grand in the back pocket, popping UAVs and all that kind of stuff. I don't think we need that. That should be rewarded through things like doing bounty contracts or recon contracts and getting the multiplier ticking away. That's how you should be able to get more money. But when it comes to trying to regain, or even trying to find enough cash for a loadout at the start of the game, it's very slow. And I feel like we need to look at a way of trying to tweak this a little bit. So this has been my brief thought on what's been good and what's been bad about the opening weekend return of Verdansk. This map will obviously look very different, give or take, like, say, 4 months' time to what it does now. So these things might change. We might get worse things. We might get better things. Who knows where they're going to go with it. Hopefully they continue to take it in a good way. So, has Warzone been saved by Verdansk? Well, for me, this is kind of the Call of Duty equivalent of being bottom of the Premier League and bringing in Big Sam Allardyce at Christmas to stop the rot, basically. To stop you getting relegated. This has stopped the rot. The community have been very positively reacting to this. A lot of people are saying this is probably one of the best updates we've ever had. It probably is one of the best updates we've ever had. So, it's given them now a platform to say, this is going to be what Warzone is going to be. And then now they need to build on it, and that's the thing. So going forward, we need to see things like limited time modes, changes to POIs in Verdansk. They have said that they will not keep Verdansk, the OG Verdansk forever. So who knows what we're going to get as we go going forward. But it's given them a good sort of platform to build off, and it actually shows the community that, you know what, they can go and build a decent Warzone game still. Alright, we've gone back to an old map, I get that, but there is a lot of there's a lot of desire from the community still to want to play Warzone, especially if they get the mechanics and the sort of the core elements of the game right. Let me know your thoughts on what the return of Verdansk has been like. Have you been enjoying it? Have you not been enjoying it? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.